Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, awesome.
Good afternoon from Midlothian, Texas.
That must be Frank.
It is.
Hi,
Hello.
Frank.
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Brown Act. SCAG offices are open for members of the public to attend and participate in person. Instructions for providing public comment have been provided in advance and are also included in the agenda packet. If a member of this body is attending remotely but is not at a location specified on the agenda, they may observe and comment as a member of the public, but may not participate in any member discussion or voting of this body. For all members participating remotely, please ensure your microphone is muted when not in use. Please state your name during deliberations and whether making a motion or offering a second. Any voting member or member of the public calling into this meeting by telephone can press *6 to mute and unmute. All telephone participants should identify themselves prior to speaking. SCAG encourages all members of the public to participate in its meetings. We are committed to holding meetings accessible to people with disabilities. For members of the public requiring ADA accommodation, please call 213-630-1410. SCAG offers free interpretation services for members of the public needing information in another language. Please call 213-236-1895. The meeting will now begin.
Good morning. I call to order the CEHD meeting. Today is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. The meeting of the Community Economic and Human Development Committee is now called to order. That's the fake gavel. As a reminder, if a member of the body is attending remotely but is not at a location specified on the agenda, they may observe and comment as a member of the public but may not participate in any member discussion or voting of this body. I'd ask the Honorable Gary Gardner to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in saluting our flag. Ready? Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. I ask the clerk to please confirm the quorum.
Yes, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I will now open the general public comment period of the meeting. This is the time when members of the public may offer comment on matters that are within SCAG's jurisdiction but are not listed on the agenda. Staff, have we received any written public comments after the deadline of 5 p.m. on Wednesday, June 4th, 2025?
Mr. Chair, I can confirm that we did not receive any written public comments after the deadline.
Thank you very much. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak? There are so many. No, I didn't see any.
Mr. Chair, I don't see any members of the public wishing to participate online or in person.
Okay, I will now close the public comment period for matters not listed on the agenda. I will now ask if there are any members of the committee who need to or wish to review or prioritize any agenda items on the agenda. Seeing none in person, any virtual at all? Hands raised? None. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item?
Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public wishing to participate online or in person.
Okay, and in order to save time, if anybody wants to pull anything from the consent calendar, I will ask to have staff present before moving the roll call vote for the consent calendar.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Thank you. It's been moved by Honorable Wendy Bucknam and Honorable Gary Gardner. Second. I'll ask the clerk to please conduct a roll call vote, please.
Yes, thank you. Cindy Allen. Debbie Baker. Aye. Wendy Bucknam. Aye. Tanya Doby. Deborah Doris Parada. Keith Ike.
Yes.
Bob Engler.
Yes.
Rosa Espinoza.
Yes.
Raymond Furman. Claudia Fermetta. Martin Frentis. Gary Gardner.
Aye.
Mike Goodsell.
Aye.
John Grass.
Aye.
Mark Henderson. Tanya Doby for the consent calendar.
That calendar lady.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Peggy Wong.
Aye.
Cecilia Hupp.
Yes.
William Hussey.
Yes.
Linda Johnson.
Yes.
Jay Liano. Annie Marshall. Andrew Maciel. John Mirish.
Yes.
Joseph Morabito. Lizette Mullins.
Aye.
Joseph Murphy. Freddie Puzza. Rocky Rose. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Rocky Rose. Thank you. Sonny Santinez.
Yes.
David Shapiro.
Yes.
Becky Shevlin.
Yes.
Mary Solorio.
Yes.
Helen Tran.
Yes.
Mark Warrenet.
Aye.
Netta Warren. Jeff Wood.
Yes.
Judy Woolsey.
Yes.
Tony Wu.
Yes.
Frank Yokoyama.
Yes, from Bellflower City Hall.
Thank you. Frank Zeranian.
Zeranian, yes, from Texas.
Okay. And Jesse Zwick.
Yes.
Thank you. Chair, the consent calendar passes with 29 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I'd ask whoever the member is with the cuckoo clock, if they could let us hear that one more time before the end of the meeting, it'd be appreciated. All right. Right, I'm on here. Right. Okay, we'll move on to information item number 5, factory built housing. And we're tackling the housing crisis and achieving the region's housing goals calls for exploring innovations and a variety of tools that can support increasing production, a variety of housing types, expediting processes, and decreasing costs for construction and for future residents. One of those strategies is factory built housing. Today, we will hear from Mr. Santana, the Chief Communications Officer of Impact Housing, who will share their work on delivering high-quality, attainable housing through a scalable modular development model. I will now call on Eduardo Santana to begin his presentation. Welcome.
Okay, good. I'm actually going to start by talking about a slight travesty, which is that we are Los Angeles based. We were founded, we started this company in 2021 here in Los Angeles. My office is just a couple blocks away, so I walked here. And yet all of our projects to date through Impact Housing have been in the city of San Diego. And so part of my message today is, if you can help me cut out that long commute to San Diego, and let's build some housing in Los Angeles. And actually, I mean, the need is absolutely dire here. We founded the company. Modular is a means to an end. The end is build more housing, right, and build it at a lower cost so that we can offer it at a lower rent. And we've been accomplishing that, and we have plans to grow and scale. And so I'll talk some more about that here. But you can see here on the screen, kind of on the right, is a bit about how we build. So that right there that you see, being moved with the crane is a 1-bedroom apartment. And I'll show you pictures inside shortly. Oh, and then on the left are pictures inside of the unit. So high quality finishes, a very attainable, but also attractive housing unit. Next slide. Or am I controlling it here? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, I mean, look, the problem, there are many faces to the housing crisis. I mean, I think we all understand this. I won't spend too much time on this, but for us, our solution is to build housing and to build it again at the lowest cost we can, so that then the end user can benefit from those cost savings. So there are 3 requirements to build new housing. I mean, if you kind of break it down, you need land, but land, along with the physical piece of land, there are public policies that affect what you can build on that land. So the reason we're in San Diego is because they have great housing policy. So then we're able to go around and find sites where, with our model of building at a lower cost, we can build new housing without any subsidies, and offer them at low income rents, essentially. So right now, most of our renters are at 80% AMI. We do have some we have a couple of renters that make over $200,000 a year, and they're happily spending a small fraction of their income towards housing, not the 30%, which is kind of the target. And that that's a market rate solution, obviously. The second is capital, and capital always follows risk. And so a big part of our platform that I'll talk to you about in a second here is how do we reduce risk? Specifically, how do we reduce schedule risk? How do we reduce any kind of budget overrun risk that causes investors to then ask for a higher return when they see more risk? And then, of course, you need a housing delivery system, and that's our complete focus as a company. So we don't only we do pretty much everything. We're vertically integrated, so we have in-house architects, in-house engineers, in-house general contracting, and in-house manufacturing. So I know a couple of you came to a tour of our facility. It's in Yorba Linda, here in Orange County. We have plans for a much larger facility that once we have that pipeline to build. But everything that we've done has been to scale it up and to build at even lower costs going forward. So I wanted to focus a little bit on policy for a second. So I don't know if you can see the slide here, but basically what we're showing is a site in Los Angeles that we built, so this was under a previous company, Universal Standard Housing. We built this using factory-built housing, but we used someone else's facility to build it. So we actually started Impact Housing in 2021 so that we can bring all of the services in-house. But when you look at this, I mean, you can see that without the transit-oriented communities, we could have built 57 units on this site, 2 stories, 1.5 FAR, and had a tremendous parking requirement. With the ordinance, we're able to build almost 2 times the number of units, twice as tall, much higher FAR, and no parking requirement. So similarly in San Diego, and we love complete transit-oriented communities when it came out. But when complete communities came out, we saw it as a TOC ordinance on steroids. I mean, it's like such an amazing policy that they just launched in 2020. And so on a site that used to have Howard Johnson's motel, we could have built 55. We are just now completing 324 units on this site. We're going up 6 stories. and we're building it. We're building it with 50 parking spaces, and so yes, this neighborhood is going to have to adjust to a lot more housing, with a lot of our residents finding parking on the street. You know, but those renters are gonna be paying low income rents, and so it's you know, for us, it's moving towards that solution that we need to have to build more housing to address the challenges we're facing with the housing crisis. So, so again, I kind of mentioned this here, where we started by using by outsourcing design and engineering, manufacturing. Now everything's vertically integrated. We also are offering our services to third-party developers. So we're now starting to talk to just starting this year, starting to talk to affordable housing developers, market rate developers, who right now have projects on the books that they can't build because they don't pencil. The costs are too high. So they're coming to us and saying, "Hey, if you can move the needle on our costs, then maybe we can you know, green light the project." And so that's part of what we're doing now. And in this case, we'd be just a design builder for that. And you can see here, I mean, under Impact Housing. Well, previously we did 2 projects, 200 units. With this, with Impact Housing, we're completing our 3rd project, 430 units across the 3. We have one project I'll show you in a second, almost 500 units. 80%, 100% of the units at 80% AMI, 0 subsidies. We're only using the California welfare exemption policy to make that happen. So I'll keep going here to move things along. So these are our units. You can look at them. We offer a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and a 3 bedroom. The reason I can show these is that we build the same unit in every project. We don't redesign the units. That's part of how we access the benefits of manufacturing, by building the same product over and over again. So you get the tremendous efficiencies when you're doing that, and you don't need to have, you know, people reading plans and how is this unit different from the one that we just built. Because it's just a repetition, then you access a lot of the efficiencies that are available, and I'll show you how much cost savings that we're able to achieve with that. Just a look inside of the units. Again, we aim to have quality finishes throughout. So we think that just because the cost of the housing is lower doesn't mean that the quality needs to be lower. And so, you know, we're always looking at different types of trade-offs. Like, for example, this living room in our 3 bedroom is and our 1 bedroom, it's actually the exact same. It's inset, so there's no exterior windows. You can see that there's a door opening going into a bedroom that has a sliding door that has a frosted glass, and that's how you get natural light into the unit. But that's a trade-off, right? So yeah, would people prefer to have a living room that has windows looking out? Absolutely, but you know, it's one of the trade-offs that we found people are very much willing to make. You can see, you know, quartz countertops, plenty of storage, USB ports. I mean, these are features that typically aren't available at the price points that we're offering the units at. You know, well-apportioned bedrooms, built-in storage. So again, because we're manufacturing, we can do components like this wall divider, build the storage inside of it, do it extremely efficiently. If someone were to try to do this on site, it probably costs $10,000 just for that wall. We're building it for a fraction of that. And so again, accessing the savings associated with manufacturing. All of our restrooms are ADA compliant, and we do things like a wall-mounted toilet, because if you think about it, like if I needed to put a standard toilet there, I need to have space for the tank, and so then the wall would need to be out a little bit further to have enough space for it to be ADA compliant. So then if I put the tank in the wall, now I can save that space, bring the wall in, and have a larger living area, which people appreciate. They don't go into the restroom and say, "Wow, this is such a big restroom, I love it." But they do say that about their living room, right? Like, "Hey, I want to be able to fit, you know, a large sectional in this room. Well, let us give you some more space in that area," right? A little bit about how we build. Again, I mean, I think this is all self-explanatory. We're building the units in a controlled environment. Our facility currently is about 55,000 square feet. I'll show you in a second here. We do have plans for much larger facilities, but with this, you know, we're able to do about 1,000 units a year out of this facility. Which again, for us is a relatively low volume relative to the size of the problem in Southern California. So for us, we'd prefer to be in a much larger facility and are doing, expanding to different business lines, including building for others, so that we could justify the investment into a larger facility. There's a video here that I don't think came through on the PDF, so I apologize. I can maybe send that as a link. But just going through some of the projects. So this is our first project. You can see relatively small, 34 units. Over 80% of the renters in this building are low income based on their income, and then and the units are low income based on their rent. So zero subsidies. Pretty much. So mostly a low income building. And we started small, so we as a sort of a building block. This is our second project, 72 units, also completed, fully leased out, and this one has more low and moderate income mix. It's in a higher resourced location, but again, I mean, we have students coming in. We have when we have folks that work at like the local universities, but we're not we're not housing the professors. We're housing like the administrative staff. This one is a mile from San Diego State University. It's about to open here in the next couple of weeks. 324 units. It's built on a one-level podium, and this is the one I mentioned earlier. 483 units in a job center. So it's transit proximate to their trolley system, and all of these units will be at 80% AMI. And so the way we're doing that is it's a good trade-off. So we're again, just as any other affordable housing project, will be exempt from paying taxes on any units that qualify. So we're deed restricted at 40%. For the remaining 60%, we have the option to qualify as many of those units as we can. And for every unit that we qualify, we don't pay taxes that year for that unit. And so it's a tremendous policy that works really well with our platform. A lot of developers are currently buying existing housing, and they're converting to using the same policy. And so that is also good. It adds affordable housing stock to those areas, but it doesn't add new housing. So this adds new housing using that same strategy, and it's something that we think is actually quite groundbreaking that we were able to figure this out, and we plan to do many more of these around the state. This is a picture of the actual project under construction. We'll be setting modules on this one at the end of the year, and we'll be completing the project at the end of next year. And then this is our first project where we're actually working with a third-party developer. This is an affordable housing project, and we just submitted for to the TCAC, and got word that our application was the top one on the list. So it really proves something that we've believed, which is that our model really is conducive to that process, and we'll make each of the projects highly competitive, because again, with a lower cost basis, then you don't need to find as many other sources of funding outside of the tax credits. Digging in a little bit into the cost savings here, I wanted to kind of give some high level KPIs. Specifically here, you can see across all of the projects, we're averaging, including land, about $280,000 a unit. Across those same projects without the land, it's $253,000. So that's kind of a way to think about like how much it costs to build new housing. Typically, new housing is running closer to $400,000 or $500,000, depending on the location, to build per unit. And you can see there are hard costs. A way to understand the savings is we're building the same either foundation or podium on the which is where the modules get stacked upon, but the savings are really in the residential floors, where our costs are going to be 25 to 30% lower than someone who's building it on site. And so that's really a huge source of savings. There's also savings in financing, because we're building a lot faster. So then there's you're paying your interest on any sort of equity or debt for a shorter period of time. So then there's savings there as well as in soft costs. This is, I think, pretty intuitive. This slide shows kind of that while we're similar to any other developer, all the way up until you get to site development, foundation, podium, and we're building the same thing there. But while we're building, we're also manufacturing our modules. So once the site is ready, there's a short time period here shown in green of the module setting, where at the conclusion of that period, you have a fully erected building with all of the units in place. Everything on the interior has already been built in. All of the flooring, the walls, the appliances, everything's done. So really, we're finishing up all of the common areas in a short amount of time. So then it results in a tremendous cost savings of 20 to 35%. We're also using a much smaller workforce. When you think about scaling our capacity as a region to build new housing, it'll take longer to scale all of the site-built trades, because they often are reliant on the very highly experienced journeymen and women that have been doing that work for some time. For us, we're able to use a lot less of the workforce, and we're actually hiring from more of a manufacturing workforce than we are from a construction workforce. And we're giving everyone, a great, very, very clear work instructions, so that within a week, 2 weeks, they're highly productive on the line. So you can see here, and most of our workers are actually low skill workers. So then they come in, they learn. If you look there on the bottom, the skills developed. They're learning how to work efficiently. Strong work ethic, teamwork, how to care for their tools, communication. As they gain experience, they can either go into some of our medium or high skilled positions, or they can go into other trades. And now they're a much more valuable worker, because they've been actually doing the work for some time and at a very high volume. I mentioned also kind of here you can see on the top left, that's a rendering of our current facility, and kind of how the manufacturing workflow goes. It's the workflow in the future facility is very similar. It's just at a larger scale. So then with more space, more people, we're just going to be able to build at much higher levels. I mean, we envision this one, I think, that I have shown here could do about 3,000 units a year. In a facility of that size, and we want to get to either that level or even larger. But ultimately, what you're getting here is economies of scale. As you build higher volume, then a lot of your different costs start to come down. And that, I mean, imagine like an environment where we have de-escalation of costs in housing as opposed to the escalation of costs. So that is the overview there. Happy to take any questions. Trying to kind of give a broad overview that involves, the policy, how we build, what the benefits are. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And if you would please send the video link to staff, and to let everybody know, on the committee, staff will be providing copies of the presentation and hopefully the video link to all members as well. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
Mr. Chair, I don't see any members of the public wishing to participate online or in person.
Okay, and now I'll move to comments from members of the CEHD. I will start with the Honorable Wendy Buckman.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. It was really, the pacing and the information included was excellent. So thank you for your approach on that. So question on the wildfires that have been happening, and really the delivery of accessory dwelling units. Those are two things that we've been talking about. Has your firm or other firms been able to work with jurisdictions and homeowners in using modular housing in any of these rebuilding efforts? And if so, what has been some of the opportunities and challenges that you've encountered? And then I have a second question. On
the ADUs. So interestingly enough, we did actually offer. We have a couple of hundred of these modules already built and in storage, and so we're looking to and knocking on every door we could, like, hey, can we deploy these like now? Like, who wants them, right? Like, who has land or some opportunity for us to deploy them? And unfortunately, there wasn't really any traction with any of those discussions. But we did convert several of our units into ADUs to show how they would lay out in that way. And so if there are any opportunities along those lines, we're very much open to it. We also put together plans for emergency housing if there was a site large enough for us to just build a one-story building quickly, so that, whether it be displaced households or the workforce that needs to come in to help clean up and rebuild. So it's something that we're definitely open to. I mean, but we're not in the position to where we can create the opportunity. Like, there really needs to be on the other side someone that says, hey, we have land, we have some funding, let's do something. And so we're absolutely open to that. We're also working with a couple of developers who are approaching the county, specifically to build along the commercial corridors, some multifamily housing, to kind of start with a town center again, and then rebuild. One of my family members, my cousin, and his family tragically lost their home. And I asked him, "Are you planning to rebuild?" And he said, "Well, what am I going to rebuild into?" Right? Like, all of my neighbors, like they're not going to move as quickly as I am. He's in the real estate industry, so he's ready to move, but he's like, I'm going to be like the only house in this whole neighborhood. So it's really a challenge, and I think if those groups, so the idea is, can we rebuild the town center so at least there's a there again?
Got it.
And then build kind of work on how can we build the housing back. So
Thank you. And then my second question is, how, with a lot of affordable housing financing requirements, et cetera, they require prevailing wage. Are you running into any issues, and do you pay prevailing wage?
yeah, so all of our so there's a distinction between offsite work and onsite work, right? So in offsite work, the requirement isn't there, even though we do pay a prevailing wage, and all of our employees are owners of the company. They all have stock in the company, and full benefits. And then if it's a project that requires prevailing wage, then those are the subcontractors that we're gonna go out and hire to do the work on site. Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, we one of our core values is we always play by the rules. So it's just whatever the rules are, we're going to follow them. That's the only way to do it if you want to do volume is stay out of trouble. So absolutely, whatever the requirements are in a specific location, that's what we're going to comply with.
Thank you very much. Next, I'll call on the Honorable John Mearsh. Welcome.
Thanks so much. And I was among those who visited the manufacturing site. And just to clarify, this is not just modular, it's prefab modular housing. And so it's very adaptable. And this is something I've been talking about for years. I think maybe 7 years ago, I went to, in Beverly Hills, there's Skanska, which is a Swedish company doing the subway construction. And I thought, gee, IKEA, Skanska, two Swedish companies. Wouldn't it be great if there were the IKEA of housing? And it turns out that Skanska and IKEA do have a joint venture that has been producing wonderful, high quality prefab housing, anything from townhouses up to, I think, 6 or 7 stories that you can go. It's called Boklokt, which means live wisely in Swedish, except it's mainly in Europe. And they were saying, when I spoke at that point with the CEO at the time, that it's really a supply chain issue. So you have to have companies such as yours that are building here for it to make any sense. That said, we should be encouraging, it's great to encourage your company, but we should be encouraging, because you're at scale, we need a lot more other companies that do high quality prefab and modular. So I just want to say thank you for that. One thing I did want to say about parking is our city is going to be adopting, or we're in the process of doing it. The whole point of reducing parking requirements is the assumption that people are going to use public transportation, not that they're going to have cars. So our city is going to basically say, if new buildings, whatever they may be, are under parks by our code, because of state statutory law, they will not be eligible for on-street or residential permit parking. And again, it just is important that the theory that people who live in these places are going to use public transportation actually do so. Otherwise, it's self-defeating. We are also going to be requiring the landlords, whether it is a condo or an apartment, to disclose this at the time that they are marketing the property. So that's just something to think about, because the whole point of reducing parking requirements or eliminating them is that people are actually going to use public transportation? Thank you.
Well, what we're seeing around the country, particularly in walkable locations like your city, is a lot more, especially young people are deciding not to have a car, and they're saying there are plenty of options now. And if you think about the cost of having a car, it could be $700 or up, and if you can save that, not have to pay for parking, not have to pay for the car insurance, everything else, and then just have a budget for like Uber, Lyft, or have a budget for like your Metro card. So absolutely, that's where things are heading, and we're willing to be one of the first movers in that space and to take the lease up risk that we with building at lower parking levels.
Thank you very much. And John, I'm sure you'll share that with all of us who are interested. The ordinance, anything that is good is worth sharing or borrowing or giving credit to you and saying it's a good idea. So thank you. Next, call on the Honorable Tanya Doby.
Thank you. So, thank you for the fabulous presentation. And I'm going to ask you the generic questions, and you are going to speak for the nation of people that obviously you represent, because you're the only one that I could see. I know there's other prefabbers and modular builders, but you've joined us today. So, and I typically have random questions, so just bear with me. I have a few. So I did have a question about the no parking requirement. It sounds like this housing is going to be more niche then, because I don't know. I realize the younger generation might not want to have cars, but I'm not giving up mine. So I think, what's the plan for people that would have a car?
So
Like,
the
is
low
it's
parking,
not-
no parking, it's not a requirement to the overall system, right?
Okay.
So we optionally could decide in San Diego how much parking to provide.
Okay.
And so we've erred on the side of less parking, so that we can, prove out the model that we can manufacture, we can build all the rest of it. And we've gone into areas that have available street parking. But in future projects, we are designing in more parking. And so we can build up to a 2-level podium. If the site's large enough, we can expand the podium to have more parking. So, I mean, we're not against parking as a company. Less parking does work well with our model, because the fewer parking spaces you build, then the total cost of the project goes down significantly. And really what happens is those that don't have parking are subsidizing those that do. Even if you charge for parking. So that's been the model so far, but we're not opposed to building at higher parking levels if it works. It's all a math equation, right? If our costs plus the cost of the land and the cost of the parking, if it all equates into a project that can go, then we're happy to build it.
Okay, and how do you quantify like neighborhood parking? You mentioned that there is surrounding parking. How do you quantify that?
We have a whole process. We have team members drive a neighborhood, count total parking spaces, and then at different points in time count how many cars are parked and how many are available, so that we can have a sense of how far would someone living in our building have to walk if they were to have to find a spot on the street. And so then we do that study for every project, and I mean, trust me, the banks and the investors that we work with require that kind of analysis, and so we do it every time.
So I'm talking more so I'm a council member in my city. Have you ever had to come and justify the way that you decided how many parking spots were available to residents?
I mean, in the city of San Diego, they're telling us build less parking. They're very aggressive on that front. They even famously removed street parking on 30th Street, really close to one of our projects, to put in a bike lane. And they heard it from the neighborhood for sure. And they did it because they're really gone all in on public transit, less reliance on cars. And that's kind of the future they envision. So we haven't had to do that in San Diego. In LA, I mean, the TOC ordinance, allows for it. Our projects, we're both within 750 feet of a major transit stop. And so then, every planning commissioner in the city came to see the project. It was the first TOC Tier 4 project to be built with no parking, and they were celebrating it. So, I mean, I guess it just depends on the city and depends also on the car usage patterns of that city. Yeah.
Okay.
What city are you with? I'm sorry.
Los Alamitos.
Oh, okay, great.
Small but mighty at the very north of Orange County.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Oh, then you come on by. I'll take you for coffee.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to change gears a little bit. I see that your 3-bedroom is 818 square feet. Are these considered to be for families? Or is it more like roommates or?
We've had both, but definitely have had families living in our 3 bedrooms. Typically I mean, in our first project, we have a family of 6 living in it, and they were previously paying more in a 1-bedroom. Where they were, inflating air mattresses every night to and sleeping in the hallways and stuff. So they're thrilled to be in something like this size. That's why I think location is also important, because it's a trend of less me space, more we space. And if you're in an area where you can walk to parks, you can walk to everything. But I mean, it's not like my family of 5, probably too small for my family. To your point. But that's we found a lot of interest in the 3-bedroom so far.
Okay, this is a random question. The wall toilet, what's the weight limit?
It's whatever.
I imagine it breaking. Like,
whatever
that's
the code is, it's very, very stable. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have that, but I'd be happy to email you that answer. That is pretty random.
I told you
Yeah, no, they're keeping your word.
Okay, and then so just a question about, it looked like the one housing unit that had more murals than windows. For me, it's kind of like a quality of life thing. If I have children that are in a unit that doesn't have windows, is that because there's a park built there, or is it close
No, the
enough?
windows are on the other side. So for that building, it's all of the units. There's a hallway on the other side of that wall where the mural is, and then all of the windows are facing out in the other direction.
So every room has a window that faces.
Every unit does, and as I mentioned in the part about trade-offs, in our 1-bedroom unit, the living area does not have an external window.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So that again, one of the trade-offs that people are willing to make. So we have, but every bedroom does have windows facing out.
Okay.
But you're right, it's not for everyone, but neither is a Kia or a Mini Cooper, right? So it's not for one. Right. So it's just like everyone that people make their decide what they're willing to pay for and what they're willing to trade off, and
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. The Honorable Gary Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Fascinating and gorgeous units, and thank you, Wendy, for asking about ADUs, because that was one of my questions. Because we have a huge program out in Desert Hot Springs for ADUs, and it's been very successful, and people have been using containers. So I said we've had a great program out in Desert Hot Springs with ADUs. People using containers, recycled shipping containers, which are very similar to what this is. My question is a little bit different. Looking at your model, and you're building them here in Los Angeles, and you were talking about a 324 unit one down in San Diego.
Yep.
You're building each of those modular units here, trucking them down to San Diego. That's 650 truck trips at least to haul that and haul your empty truck back up to pick up another unit. The further you get away from your factory, how does that affect your cost, because you're having to transport those units so far? So you're transporting them all the way out to Coachella Valley is going to add probably a significant cost, as well as the number of truck trips increasing out that far.
Yeah. I mean, transportation costs for shipping costs is definitely a factor that we're always considering. We actually for roughly half of the modules, we do we connect 2, and so it's more like, and most of our units are only 1 module. The larger units have 2, so it's not in the 600s. I think that building had something like maybe 450 modules total for the 324 units. But no, it is an important consideration. So we're not, like if someone were to say, hey, can you build us a project in in Georgia. We'd probably say, probably not. We're probably not going to be the best solution for you because the cost of shipping is going to be so high. Wait for us to build a facility in Arkansas and then let's talk again. So that's really, it is an important consideration. So we kind of look at a 500-mile, area, 500-mile diameter, I'm sorry, radius, to kind of indicate what any target market might be for a given facility. So here, I mean, we'd be open to doing like Phoenix, Vegas, and obviously all of Southern California. But once you start getting to Northern California, it'd be kind of tough to justify.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just to let the committee know, we have a number of questions still, but we have another presentation, so we'll take about 5 more minutes maximum, and then we'll have to move on. Honorable Jesse Zwick, and welcome. We'll get to that later.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. This model and the ability to do 100%, 80% AMI projects with no subsidy is really incredible. So thank you for that. My question is, you talked about policy upstream that either enables or makes this harder. You mentioned obviously zone capacity in relation to TOC and complete communities programs. Are there other bottlenecks, from a policy perspective, either in the permitting or building code or other parts of the process that you're experiencing either here or in San Diego, in addition to the zoning that you're looking at or looking to sort of make it easier and enable these kind of projects?
What city are you with?
I live in the city of Santa Monica, and I'm a council member there.
Okay, great. So there are a couple. So first of all, the way that modular projects get inspected is different than the typical project, right? So the state sends inspectors into our facility, and they certify every unit, and they give it its own insignia and says, hey, this has been inspected. You don't, like city inspector, you don't need to concern yourself with this because we've already done that work. Now, if you're a city inspector and you've been doing your job for 20, 30, 40 years and you have a certain kind of way to do things, that's hard to accept. So, LA and San Diego have both, organized committees that are connected to their building departments, and San Diego it's their development services to understand. I mean, they brought in folks from the state, they brought in private sector folks to help their inspectors understand what's in their resume of work and what isn't. So that kind of proactive work is really helpful. It said to us, hey, we're modular friendly. We're actually going to help educate our inspectors to ensure that you don't get slowed down by that process, by an inspector saying, hey, I'm going to go into each unit too now, and I'm going to look for things there, right? So that's I would say that's one thing. In terms of the code, I mean, there some cities still have minimum unit sizes, which makes sense in certain locations and doesn't make as much sense in others. Like if you're in a downtown location and someone really just wants a nice unit that is livable to them, like to have an artificial kind of limitation on the unit size has caused issues for us to find sites in certain cities. So that's one that I think is worth looking at. But I mean, really, our buildings are very similar to any other building that gets built. It's just I remember getting a text message from a council member. Hey, do your buildings last as long as a normal traditional stick-built building? And I was like, it actually would last longer, because if you think about it, we have a fully built out six-sided unit next to another six-sided unit, so you have double the structural material to hold up the building. So it's actually gonna have a longer life period. So the type of things like that. I mean, it's just important to understand that there's more similarities to stick built buildings than differences.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if we can, in the interest of time, if you can shorten even your answer. I hate to ask you, but we have a lot of questions waiting, and we're not going to get to them all. Well, Honorable Becky Long. I'm sorry, Honorable Martin Fuentes. I see too many signs still up. Sorry.
Good morning, Martin Fuentes, City of Cudahy.
Can you use the mic, please?
My apologies. Martin Fuentes, City of Cudahy.
One of our challenges are we're limited by space,
Mhm.
you know, and our size, we're 1.2 square miles, 25,000 residents. So we're very dense. It's interesting how someone's problem is another person's solution.
Mhm.
The 400 square feet, 800 square feet sounds ideal for our area because we cannot grow out, but
Yeah.
definitely help with conversion, which
Right.
is something that I'm helping influence. We have 13 mobile home parks
Mhm.
at the moment.
Yeah.
And in our area, that is the dream of owning a home, right? Owning a mobile home.
Right.
This sounds very ideal. I would love to engage
Absolutely.
in a conversation like that. And if that is something that you have experience with, helping convert what is existing to this new model.
Would love to talk, and actually, my family until recently lived in Cudahy. My parents, yeah, they.
There is always a
Paris
relation
Street,
to
yeah.
Cudahy, and I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have 2 minutes. Honorable Becky Long. Okay, we'll move on to the Honorable Peggy Huang.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm the council member in Yorba Linda, and I'm embarrassed not to know that you're in my city. So I'd love to have a tour of your facility if that's possible and see if we can partner there. I just, there's a lot of questions about parking because that's the number one thing that we hear from residents all the time. All these apartments without parking and they're on our streets. My concern is, have you encountered any issues or as part of your parking analysis, taking into account how emergency, vehicles can traverse through those areas that you built in where there's not adequate parking and everybody's on the street? Has that impeded emergency response in any ways, or is that also part of your calculation?
Yeah, no, the good thing about cities is they have fire departments that have very stringent requirements, and that's the lens that they're looking through, is to ensure that the building is safe, and especially in the worst case scenario where they have to bring in emergency vehicles. So that hasn't been an issue. I mean, certainly there is a tremendous amount of coordination with the fire marshals that we've worked with to ensure that's the case. But that's really where those concerns are addressed is through their review of the inside and the exterior conditions of the building.
Thank you very much. And with 55 seconds, the Honorable Maria Solaria. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So real quick, the city of San Fernando, like some of these other cities, is very small. So we wouldn't have, the capacity to build up. But how do you partner with cities in order to possibly get some sort of contract to do individual ADUs, or do residents have the ability to contact the company in order to purchase an ADU, and how much do those run?
Yeah, we actually comped our pricing for ADUs to some of the other ADU prefab builders out there, and we're highly competitive. I'd be happy to share that pricing with anyone who would like it. I can send that with the video links. And what I will say is the city of Pasadena has a very interesting ADU policy, where what they're doing is they're providing some funding to homeowners that are interested in building ADUs, and I think that's we found that to be extremely attractive, and I would look to that. I think it's really more on the homeowner side of providing them the resources that they would need. I mean, we'd be happy to work with them on our side, though I'm not sure. I think that you probably get more traction, and it'd be kind of a quicker solution to work directly with your residents.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santana. And thank the committee for all the insightful and thoughtful questions. And I know we'll get more from you. The vice chair and chair had questions. We'll do them privately in the interest of time, so we can move on to the next presentation we have.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
As cities working to foster strong local economies and vibrant communities, local governments across the SCAG region have embraced placemaking as a complementary strategy to traditional infrastructure investment and business development programs. Today, CEHD members will hear from Jennifer Lilly, AICP Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Riverside, about efforts they have taken to advance placemaking and economic development. Welcome, Jennifer Lilly, and we appreciate your presentation in advance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to come today and first brag on the City of Riverside, because it is an amazing place. And I'm so excited to get to share with you what we're doing in economic development. And if you'll be patient with me stepping back a little bit to give you that broad overview, then we'll get down to the detail of placemaking efforts that we're taking. So first of all, and kind of tagging on to the last speaker, thank you so much for the presentation. I'd like to talk to you about that expansion plan that you have, by the way. The first thing that the city has really been focused on is taking development as an economic development driver. We want to ensure that we're rolling out the red carpet and removing the red tape from development. And so things like looking at our code, finding what those impediments are, for investment into our community, and for timing. How are we reinvesting and ensuring that once we attract businesses to our region, that they're able to open their doors quickly and start making money? So we're looking at not only our policies, but our practices, retraining our municipal workforce to really move into this next generation of development and bring forward investment quickly. One of those efforts has been streamlining Riverside. Many of you may have heard of the one-stop shop effort that was stood up in the city of Riverside about 9 years ago. We've been taking the last 2.5 years to work with our development community, work with the investment community, and understand, how do we refine for today's economy? How do we move development forward? How do we incorporate things like AI and self-certification and auto plan checking and other tools that are available to us and are changing on a really rapid basis? So when the gentleman talked about inspectors and being in a groove and how they do things, we need to make sure that they know that there's streamlined ways, better ways, and we're learning from the private sector on how we can incorporate that. So Streamline Riverside, we are bringing in ADU plans, automatic, as I said, automatic plan checking, where we will, of course, have certified engineers that will do the structural, but when it comes to room additions and things that are fairly straightforward, we can use technology to help. That's paid off in about $390 million of new construction projects, 13,000 jobs that have been brought to the region, and over 1,600 new businesses that have opened. But we've taken this time to really step back and set the stage for the next generation. We've kicked off our general plan and climate action plan so that we can talk to our community about where they see the city of Riverside going into our future. And from that, we're really learning how they want to see placemaking in our community. This is the city of arts and innovation. We have an amazing downtown. We have a historic region that is, in my opinion, bar none. And so we want to not lose touch with that past, but grow into our future. Part of that has also been updating our economic development strategic plan. And we've really based that on 5 areas of excellence where the city is already achieving success. So green tech, we're going to talk a lot about that this morning. General technology, medical and bio, we have UCR, which is one of the leading institutions in the world, really, when it comes to research and technology. And also we have our naval base and our Air Force base that's right there in the region, so growing out of that as well. And then last but certainly not least is arts and tourism. So let's talk a little bit about what the city's seen in success and how that's growing us into our placemaking areas. So this year, our council's vision is coming to fruition where we're opening our Ag Innovation Center. So again, building on the city's rich agricultural history. And as many of you know, the cutie came out of Riverside. So we now have an Ag Innovation Center where we'll be bringing in the next generation of agriculture, learning how to grow differently, how to produce differently, and train that next generation of workforce. Did you know that we actually can find out when plants need water? And rather than just a typical irrigation drip system, we can talk to the root of the plant and give it water when it needs it rather than all the time. So we can actually grow different crops than we have typically. And in our more arid climates, that makes a lot of sense for our food source. This Ag Innovation Center will also be a place where students can come and learn, where people can understand sustainability. We'll have greenhouses that are run off of solar power and more. This year, we also opened up our Omeo Manufacturing and Distribution Center. For those of you who haven't heard about Omeo, this was a New Zealand company that we were able to attract to Riverside through a Select USA effort, foreign direct investment. They have now located over by our airport, and they are producing fully autonomous electric shuttles. This is really about that last mile. So when we talk about placemaking, we want to think about how we get people around. So when they don't have cars in the homes they live in, they can still move around the places that you create. They can get from entertainment to restaurants back to their homes. Omeo has been a great solution for that. And our leadership invested their money where their mouth is, and they said, we want to pilot your shuttles here in our city. So we're going to see them moving around UCR campus, in our downtown, and over on our west side in some of our placemaking efforts. But bigger than Riverside, Omeo also has contracts in JFK. They're all over South Korea, and they are still competing for a contract with the Ontario Airport. Additionally, this year, we were able to attract Voltu Motor Companies. This is also a technology company. This is the exciting thing about our green tech hub that we've created in our city. Voltu has been able to reimagine electric batteries, and they can now put those into the fleet trucks so that you can actually have an F350 and an F450 that runs completely on electric battery. These cars, or these trucks, excuse me, charge each other. They can be deployed out in the field, and they run off of just a regular 220 rather than needing special charging infrastructure. We're very excited to have them manufacturing out of our city as well. And then rounding out this group, we've been able to attract a company from South Korea called Hyundai Rotem, part of the Hyundai Motor Company. So they are producing hydrogen trains. They are anticipating that these will be used as part of the LA 2028 effort to move people into LA, hopefully from the city of Riverside as well and back. This group is set to open shortly, their manufacturing plant, and it is a beautiful example of alternative transportation running on hydrogen energy. Green Power Motor Company has also joined our Green Technology Hub in Riverside, locating all of their headquarters now from other locations. Sorry about that if they left your city, to come to the city of Riverside. We're so excited to see a health-minded company where we're putting kids on green buses rather than buses that run on fossil fuel. So they're really thinking not just about transportation, but also health and sustainability. And then just this week, we were able to announce the opening of stored powered technology. Again, these all sound like, okay, well, great. They do batteries or they do electric charging. Doesn't everybody do this? These companies are really leading the industry. Stored powered technology has incorporated AI into energy storage, and they've been able to have a product now that will learn how your home operates. It will read the patterns of the weather and be able to reset your battery storage and consumption. So you're using less power, you're earning more power, and you're saving more money. So all of that attraction in our community leads to some of our placemaking efforts. So let me talk a little bit about that. So the Riverside Airport has been an important hub in our community, and it's part of our CBU campus, where we have a very large aerospace engineering education system. The students are learning there, and we have a lot of hangars that are available. We're not only looking at how we are expanding the airport, but how do we build that into our west side of the city? I mentioned the green tech company, Omeo, that has located there, but we have a very large part of the airport where we can bring in other uses to build on that hub. And so we're excited to see our airport grow and expand and really complement what's going on our west side of town. This is just a shameless plug for our downtown. This year, we are announcing that Fleming's Prime Steakhouse is coming to our downtown. And this is just one of those examples where we have this amazing reuse of an old historic building called the Mark. That will be luxury apartments that are almost all leased out at this point. The ground floor was meant for retail. And as you know, right now, very difficult to attract new commercial and retail tenants. So very long work, building relationship with Fleming's Steakhouse and ensuring that we're complementing what's happening with our downtown and marrying the old with the new. In our north side, the city about 10 years ago set a vision for the north side specific plan. And in that vision, they imagined a park space that would be the hub around residential development and commercial and retail we received an unsolicited bid that we're working with now, a company called we will call them Riverside Adventure Center. Their Keystone project is in South Carolina that we visited, and it's actually a water adventure park. Now, I don't want you to think Disneyland. I want you to think that you get to go out on the Kern River and ride on whitewater rafting expeditions. This is in more of a controlled environment because I don't know, right now, Riverside does not have whitewater rafting naturally, but we are bringing it in an area where we can bring that to our community and beyond. Additionally, they'll have a surf park. They'll be able to have walking trails, bike trails, dog parks, dog adventures, all sorts of great things that will be open for free to the public. And all that they'll be paying for is those adventures themselves. So this will really be a catalytic project that will kick off our north side specific plans. So setting that vision, but then attracting something that will actually, if you build it, they will come. That's what we're seeing happening. And where we didn't have housing developers knocking down our door for the last year or so, now that this project is in the mix, others are coming forward and saying, hey, that property to the east of that, we're really interested in looking at housing now. And that mixed use development that you want to see a town center, let's talk more about how that can happen. So placemaking can sometimes come from setting a vision 10 years earlier and being very patient, methodical, and deliberate about how you carry that vision forward. And really, at the end of the day, not losing hope, staying focused and staying committed to that. The other piece that I want to share about this one, and it will also tag into the next slide, is communication with the public. The one thing that we heard, I've been at the city now for almost 3 years, from the community is we were promised this plan. When is it coming? When is it coming? And so we've made a really concerted effort to go back out to the community on a regular basis and let them know the progress, let them know the challenges, let them know what's happening next so that they don't lose faith and they don't think that we've given up on the plan that was set in motion. We just had our latest reconnection with the community to explain this project moving forward. And I was very surprised to hear so much support, even though this sounds pretty big and pretty impactful. There wasn't as much resistance. It was more excitement and really just wanting to learn more. So the reason why I say that dovetails into this next slide is Riverside Alive is another one of those visionary catalytic projects that our council envisioned about 5 years ago. This was on property that the city owns. It's actually a surface parking lot adjacent to our convention center. And the city, being one of the 12th largest in the state of California, has decided our convention center just isn't enough for us right now. Now, we all know what happened over the last several years with COVID. People weren't really having conventions. So the project had to go on hold for a bit. And about 2 years ago, we picked it back up and said, is this the right time? And again, another great example of decision makers saying we set a vision, we're happy to pivot and make changes if we need to, but this is a place-making effort in our downtown that makes sense. And so let's study it to make sure it still makes sense in today's economy. So we are moving forward, building Class A office. Who's doing that? Riverside is. It's amazing. We need Class A office in our downtown. We actually are very underserved. All of our office space is at about only 4% vacancy. This will also have luxury residential, ground floor retail. We'll be letting an RFP for a 9-story parking garage, and I'm very hopeful that we will do something really exciting on the rooftop. Rooftop amenity, hopefully bring in some more art for complementing what's happening with the Cheech. And as you see there in the photo, really activating the space. If you come to our community, we have an amazing downtown that has very vibrant daytime population, and we have lots of events. What we need to complement that space is round the clock. People living in our downtown, being able to stay and patronize our businesses 24/7. And that's what we believe Riverside Alive will provide. So what is on most people's mind is our older corridors. So throughout the city, we have long stretches of probably 1940s, 1950s commercial centers. How many of you have those in your community? Right? What we're seeing in these parts of our town is a lot of vacancies, a lot of buildings that are having a difficult time bringing in new tenants, smaller spaces, and not fitted with the things that we need to bring in the businesses that want to attract and move there today. So we've identified 3 different neighborhoods to start with, because the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, although I don't suggest eating elephants, just going to say. So Arlington Village is one of the first that we've started with, and we really use this as a pilot project. We dug into what are the challenges that we're facing there. Some of that was with safety and security. We were seeing businesses that were having graffiti, were having encampments and other challenges just to keeping their businesses open. Some were really faced with older property owners, maybe 2nd or 3rd generation of ownership, that weren't interested in reinvesting. They were absentee, they weren't really seeing the value, and for some of them, it was a write-off to keep it vacant. In other cases, we had outdated standards that were saying things like, you can't have drive-throughs, or you don't have to have parking, or you do have to have parking. And sometimes our regulations were what were standing in the way. So using Arlington Village as a model, we dug into what are the challenges, what are the immediate solutions we could put into place, what were those that were going to take a little bit longer, and then what are the big lifts that we need to look at, whether that's purchasing property, assembling with property owners, or changing the specific plans or the zoning regulations overall. So throughout these next 3, really throughout the city council authorized a grant program where we were able to deal with that first rung, safety and security. We offered businesses the ability to apply for grants that they did not have to pay back. They could use those to do facade improvements, signs, train their workforce, deal with security cameras, remove graffiti, install landscaping, all of those basic things just to make life a little bit easier. The latest thing that we're doing in all of these areas, as I spoke about, is looking at our regulations. Grease trap interceptors. Does this word mean anything to the rest of you? It is the bane of the existence of some of these smaller spaces that are trying to bring in a restaurant. It's important. So the Public Works and Utilities people tell me that we have these things, but sometimes the cost is just too high. So how can the city partner with the property owner, with a tenant, to ensure that they're able to get past that steep point of entry. ADA requirements. Sometimes you have a tenant who's just trying to open a barber shop. Not that that's a true life story. And they are tasked with having to improve parking, ramps, and other things that they don't have control over because it's the property owner that has to do that. So how are we looking at our rules and regulations to ensure that our tenant isn't being burdened with something that really is a longer term solution? Let me move on a little bit to our arts and culture district. This is in the heart of our downtown. Once again, it's an area that is smaller in scale. It is not served by some of the parking structures that are immediately adjacent. One of those things, again, about placemaking is there's always plenty of parking. It's just not where you want it to be. And so in a downtown, your parking structures are typically wrapped around the outside, and people want to get right to that coffee shop, right to the bookstore, and they've got to do what? Walk. Doggone it. So we've really looked at our arts and culture district and how do we improve the experience? Installing music, appropriate lighting, bringing in even just banners and murals, wrapping those utility vaults, making the experience better so that, yes, I have to walk a couple blocks, but it doesn't feel quite so difficult. And then the last one I will talk about is our Midtown experience. Again, very much like Arlington. In this case, we really have been looking at property itself and taking the next step of investment into placemaking where the city would partner and purchase a piece of property. No, we don't have redevelopment anymore. Those dollars are not there. But our city council, in their wisdom, has said we need to sometimes have some skin in the game. And how can we look at our 100% corners? Because sometimes that's the piece that's going to light up the rest of the block. And we can make something start to happen. And so in Midtown, that is happening on one of our highest traffic volumed corners. Another project that we're hoping will come in to complement that effort will be painting the intersection. And this is just another way to bring art and innovation into a placemaking district to make that there. What's starting to happen in each of these placemaking districts that we really identified as a key component is meeting with those business owners on a regular basis and getting them to the table. What can they do to also help? How can they not just tell us what the problems are, but help us with those solutions? In Midtown, we've seen that just explode. They are hosting weekend events. They're having moments in Midtown where they invite people out to have a special memory with their families, with their businesses, with their colleagues, and really creating that place where people identify and want to be. Throughout this whole effort, our mission is to tell our story. Riverside is no longer a hidden gem. We are out telling our story across the country and beyond. We're so excited not just to have people come and visit for the day or for the weekend, but to invest in our future. As our mayor likes to say, when you choose Riverside, we choose you. And that is something we really practice on a daily basis. We are out promoting Riverside in the San Diego Business Journal. The one thing we have many things that we can offer, but we have land and we have our own utilities. And so we're able to say to businesses, we love that you're in San Diego. We want you to be successful there, and we want you to come out to the Inland Empire and invest there as you expand your operations. I'm going to pause there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And thank you so much for letting me come this morning and share how it's our time in Riverside.
Thank you very much for the presentation. And we'll start with, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
Mr. Chair, I do not see any members of the public wishing to participate online or in person.
Thank you very much. I will now entertain comments from members of the CEHD committee, and we'll start with Lucy Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jennifer, I love this presentation. I think you did a terrific job. And when I think of placemaking strategies, I think of the future. But a lot of the stuff that you did and you demonstrated is not just for the future, but especially in an economic volatile time for small businesses in your community, some of this stuff is really relevant right now. Are you seeing I mean, you've obviously done outreach for innovation and incubation, two of my hot buttons that I know cities and our local governments really, the ones that are going to get us through this stuff, tariffs and business uncertainty and hiring uncertainty, and we're seeing jobs losses now. But I'm wondering are there any other items, permit streamlining, for example? Are there things that you're doing or you're hearing from your business community now that your placemaking strategies could help them now as they kind of like navigate through kind of a difficult period for them?
Thank you for that question. I appreciate it.
Right.
Absolutely. And this is something that being a practitioner now through many upturns and downturns, this is the time to look for that, right? Rather than to retract and say, well, we'll wait until things get better. This is the time to say, do we still need conditional use permits for restaurants? I don't know, but it's certainly something that we want to look at. And so being able to talk to our restaurateurs and to say, if we remove just that impediment, would it make it easier? If we got your doors open 6 months sooner, would that be better for you? And then being able to explain that to our decision makers. How do we still ensure that the impacts that sometimes come with not so great operators or really successful operators, right? Just because they have a line down the block doesn't mean they're bad. So how do you ensure that those impacts are managed without a conditional use permit? We're used to what we're used to. So we're definitely looking at that. We are in really a constant state right now of talking with our business community. I think that's a critical component because we know our codes, we know our processes, we know our policies, but we don't always understand how they impact on the other side, small and large. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Tanya Doby.
So that was great. And I could listen to you talk all day. It was just so very soothing. And I'm still in several of your ideas. I'm not going to tell you which ones. You'll just have to see what Los Alamitos does.
I love Los Al.
And then, come on now. My heart is so happy. So the real question that I have for you, and I will ask this of anybody that declares that they can successfully do outreach, how are you doing it?
Oh, my friend. So in my past life, I was a facilitator, mediator, and a community engagement specialist. And what I will say is nobody can do it all and nobody does it perfectly. So the best thing you can do is to be open and transparent and meet people where they are. So how we're doing that in Riverside is we are hitting every opportunity we can. People today are busy, and we got in this mode of meeting differently. So just hosting a meeting in public isn't good enough anymore. And just hosting something online only meets certain needs. And so we are taking surveys where we're really doing interactive work. The things that we used to do sitting around a table where people could draw on plans, we're able to use technology to build in those conversations. But we're also asking for feedback. And I know sometimes that's frustrating, right? Like, how can we meet with you more? How can we listen to you more? But it's so important for us to hear from the community. How can we reach you? The best thing that we are doing in our general plan, and actually I've copied that from history past, is building ambassadors. I'm only one voice. I can only be so many places at once. But if I can teach 30 people that same message, gosh, our reach is so much better and bigger. So really it's staying consistent, creating that open transparency, and then building your capacity.
It's a tough crowd today. The Honorable Wendy Buckman.
Thank you. Your presentation was phenomenal. I agree with Tanya. And my question for you is, because these are all things that we're struggling with, And Riverside's an older city. So what we're finding, I don't know if this is the situation there, is that we're really having trouble with the people that own the retail space, not to improve and keep up to date with what is needed for retail now, and it's all private property. How are you dealing with that? Because man, we could use that advice.
Yeah, I love hearkening back to when I was working in Orange County and my friends over in the city of Anaheim many, many moons ago in their placemaking district. And they said to their retailers, we're here to help. We have money that we can offer you back in the days when we had money. And we want you to replace your signs. We want you to invest in your landscaping, repave your parking lots. And we're going to have this money available for the next 18 months. And they offered that. And then after that, they said, anybody who didn't do that, you're out of compliance with the code. And we're going to give you a period of time to bring your business into compliance. And I'm, of course, summarizing this. So Anaheim, it was much more different than that, right? But nonetheless, right? Carrot, stick. But the stick didn't come immediately. They gave a window of time to say, you're out of compliance. We're still here to help. And then the third phase of that was, that's it. We've waited, we've helped, we've offered, we've done all the things. Now we're going to do it for you and we're going to assess you. Now that's a really strong example, right? But for that placemaking effort, it made sense. And you can drive down that boulevard today and you can see the fruits of that labor. And it was really this effort of partnership that came with standing up for the vision. So I'm not saying that we're doing that yet in Riverside, but certainly we've come with our hands out to say we're here to help. We're here to help financially. We want to understand the problems and see how we can support you. We're here to help with our policies and our practices. We want to remove those impediments, but we need you to come to the table. And so we are holding property owners accountable who aren't meeting those code standards. We're doing it in a really responsible and respectful way. But those that are just sitting silent and not helping part of the effort, we really want to understand why. And then bring in partners who will say, hey, have you ever thought about selling your property? Have you ever thought about this tenant? Can we introduce them to you and can you bring them in? The hardest part is building that relationship. And I don't know if you've had that struggle, but finding out the actual person from the property owner side that will come to the table and have the conversation is that biggest impediment.
Great, thank you. The Honorable Freddie Puza.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm just curious about the funding. You talked about the city purchase property. There's some sustainability and climate initiatives. Are there particular revenue streams? Are there grants? Or is it all general fund or the assessments?
So my quick answer is yes, it is all of those things. So some of that is general funds, some of that was ARPA money that was rolled over, some of that has been grant money. With the property investment, we're really looking at almost like an economic development fund, if I can coin that phrase this morning, to say, this is an effort we're going to invest in. And when we sell that property, when we lease the property, we pay back the fund. And now we go into the next placemaking effort and we reinvest there. It could be a bid where we stand up the bid and then the bid takes over from there and the funding comes from private investment. So we're looking at every opportunity because once again, money shouldn't be our impediment. We can have partners that are in the private sector, are in venture capital, are in business who want to see success, and we want to tap into those dollars as well.
Thank you very much. Online, we have the Honorable Joseph Morabito.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. And let me just give you my bona fides on that I was born in Riverside Community Hospital, as were my brothers and my cousins and all that. Now I live in Wildomar. And so you mentioned Riverside Adventure Center, right? It says 722 housing units, of which 25% are affordable. Now, in the modern world, much less modern SoCal, what does that mean? I mean, I don't know if a lot of us can afford non-affordable housing anymore. So I'm curious, What does that mean, if you know?
I appreciate the question. And I know the gentleman before me talked about AMI and how we all qualify and those things. And I'm constantly telling my my neighbors, I don't think I could afford my house today. And I tell my kids all the time, you guys should try to qualify for affordable housing because you are in that category. So 25% will be based on our median income. It will have to meet all of the state requirements for affordability. What hasn't been identified yet, because we're still in that early negotiation stage, is what level of affordability. As you all know, there's that moderate level that really is, oh my goodness, almost all of us would probably be in that category in a lot of our regions. And then low and very low. We are talking to this developer about how we can bring in senior housing, how we can bring in student housing. Again, this is on our north side of town. We have over 80,000 students that are in our city on a daily basis. And so we need more housing for our students, and what a great place for them to be able to live. That would be an outdoor adventure center. So when it comes to the details, I'm sorry to say I don't have those with me this morning because the project hasn't submitted all of the specifics on their housing, but I'm certainly happy to follow up with the committee in the future.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Jennifer, for that excellent report and all the questions and answers. We appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to the chair's report, and I'll start by recognizing our newest CEHD member, Jesse Zwick from the city of Santa Monica. Welcome. As a highlight on Connect SoCal in May, the California Air Resources Board accepted SCAG's determination that the Connect SoCal 2024 Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy meets CARB's greenhouse gas GHG emission reduction targets. By accepting the determination, CARB affirms SCAG's efforts to align land use planning with transportation policy and investment to support statewide climate goals. However, the lengthy review process highlighted SCAG's concerns about the need to revisit Senate Bill 375 to better support implementation. Following CARB's workshop on updating the target setting process, we will send a joint comment letter reiterating concerns we have previously raised about revising the process. Meanwhile, SCAG continues to make progress in implementing Connect SoCal 2024 with detailed updates also among the receive and file items in your packet today. Thank you to everyone here, everybody online, and everyone who attended and was able to join us at the SCAG's 60th Annual General Assembly last month, where we approved our general fund budget and elected our board officers for the upcoming year, including our president, who is present here today, the Honorable Cindy Allen. I look forward to continuing to work with the work of this committee and to continue working with all of you throughout the upcoming year. I want to thank staff for all of their hard work and efforts in supporting and putting this meeting and all our meetings together. Thank you. I'll thank you. And now I'll turn to Jonathan Davis for the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To celebrate the tenure of SCAG immediate past president Kurt Hagman, SCAG has released its 2024-2025 President's Report to highlight the accomplishments from his term. The report is organized by the presidential priorities established by Supervisor Hagman at the beginning of his term: goods movement and technology, clean transportation and technology, and transit recovery. The report also chronicles advocacy accomplishments and awards that SCAG received over the previous year. For more information, the report can be found on SCAG's website. We thank President Hagman and this committee for your work in making this past year a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll turn to member announcements. Are there any announcements in person or online? Seeing none, our next meeting is scheduled. We have 2 months off. For Thursday, September 4th, 2025. And hopefully many of us can be here to participate in person. Again, thank you for your participation today and wishing you all a very safe, happy, healthy July 4th in advance, since we won't see you. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.